Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something huge, India's massive legal machine. We're going to break down how a single idea can travel through this incredibly complex system to become a law for over 1 billion people. So how does an idea become a rule for 1.4 billion people? It's a huge question, right? To get to the answer, we are going to follow the entire life cycle of a law in India. We'll trace its journey right from a simple concept to a rule that governs the entire nation. All right, before we get into the nitty-gritty of how a law is made, let's take a step back and ask a more fundamental question. Why do we even need laws in the first place? What's their basic purpose in a society as big and diverse as India's? Okay, so at its most basic level, you can think of law as the official rulebook for society. It's this set of obligations and duties that the government puts in place for one big reason: to make sure society runs smoothly and fairly, and to provide justice for everyone. Now, in India, the law is basically split into two big buckets. On one hand, you've got criminal law. This is for what we call public wrongs, things like theft or assault. The main playbook here is the Indian Penal Code, and the end goal, usually it's punishment. On the other side, you have civil law. This is all about settling disputes between people or companies. Think of something like a broken contract. The goal here isn't to punish, but to sort things out and find a fair resolution. Okay, so we know why we have laws, but where do they actually come from? Let's get to the master blueprint for every single law in India, the most important legal document in the whole country. And here it is, the Constitution of India from 1950. This isn't just any document. It is the supreme law of the land. You can think of it like the ultimate source code for the entire country. Every single other law has to get its power from this document, and absolutely nothing can contradict it. But, while the Constitution is the absolute bedrock, it's not the only place laws come from. You've also got statutes. Those are the laws passed by Parliament and state assemblies. Then there are precedents, which are basically decisions made by judges in court cases. And you even have customs and old traditions that have been followed for so long, they've become part of the legal fabric. This brings us to the really fascinating part. How is a law actually built? Let's take a look at the legislative assembly line and see how a simple idea gets turned into a powerful, binding rule. It all starts with what's called a bill. That's just a proposed law. First, it gets introduced in Parliament. It has to be debated and passed in the lower house, the Lok Sabha. Then it's on to the upper house, the Rajya Sabha, for more debate and another vote. If it gets through both, it lands on the president's desk for the final stamp of approval. Once the president gives their assent, and it's published in this thing called the Official Gazette. Boom. The bill is now officially an act of Parliament. It's a real, binding law. Okay, so we have an act, but let's be real. A law is just words on a page if there's no one to make sure people actually follow it. So who's on the beat? Who are the rule enforcers? Well, that massive job falls to the executive branch of the government. And they don't do it alone. They work through a whole network of different ministries, each one in charge of implementing and enforcing laws in their own specific field. And this is where we get into that famous alphabet soup of government agencies, right? But it's actually pretty straightforward. You've got the MCA, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which handles companies. SEBI keeps an eye on the stock markets. The RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, manages all the banks in our money supply. And the IBBI deals with bankruptcies. Each one has a super specific and crucial role in keeping the economy running. But what happens if someone breaks a law? Or maybe, what if nobody's quite sure what a law means? Who gets the final say? For that, we have to turn to the third pillar of the whole system, the courts. Exactly, the courts are basically the official referees. Their job is twofold. One, to settle disputes, and two, and this is so important, to interpret what the laws actually mean when applied to real-life situations. They're the ones who make sure the rules are applied fairly to everyone. And India's court system is set up like a pyramid. Down at the base, you've got your local district courts handling day-to-day civil and criminal cases. Moving up, every state has a high court, which is the top court for that state. And then, right at the very peak, sits the one court that has authority over all the others. This Supreme Court. And that single number 1 on the screen says it all. There's only one. Its decision is final, it's the absolute last word, and every single other court in India has to follow what it says. Now, this power the courts have to make decisions that become the rule for future cases is a really key part of India's legal system. It's called a common law system. It means that judges don't just apply the law, their decisions, these precedents, actually help shape and develop the law over time. And the whole thing runs on a core principle with a fancy Latin name, stare decisis. It just means to stand by that which is decided. It's a simple but powerful idea. Courts should follow the logic from similar cases in the past. And why does that matter? It brings consistency and predictability to the law, which is something we all need. So, let's just quickly run through that whole journey again. It starts as an idea. That idea becomes a bill. The bill passes and becomes an act. That act is then put into practice by government ministries. And finally, it's interpreted by the courts. It's this complete, unbroken chain that gives the entire framework its incredible strength and structure. When you look at the whole picture, you see this system is this incredible, delicate balancing act. It's balancing the power of the central government against the rights of the states, and all of that against the freedoms of every single individual. It's a system that was built to last, but it's also constantly changing. And that really leaves us with a big question for the future. How will this incredibly complex machine adapt to the challenges that are coming our way?